Yeah, it's been a minute. What's up, guys? This is Courtney, one half of the Brothers Deconstruction here, and I'm bringing you my kinda late review. It's only been a couple of weeks, but anyway, nonetheless, my review for Knives Out. Knives Out is a recent murder mystery movie written and directed by Rian Johnson. This film came out a couple of weeks ago. Like I said before in previous videos, I know it's been a while. Work has been really crazy. Been working a bunch of overtime, so I haven't really been able to sit down and go to the movie theater. Haven't really wanted to either because I've just been so tired. But anyway, I finally got around to seeing this. Figured I'd do a review for it. Hey, why not? Bruce has been posting videos lately, so yeah, let's jump into it. Some, I guess, light spoiler? No, these aren't even light spoilers. As usual, this is the typical spoiler warning. You've been warned. Let's go ahead over with some things that I liked. The acting was really good in this film. Nothing super over the top besides Daniel Craig's Southern accent. Everybody does a really good job in the roles that they're given, especially the leading actress, Ana de Armas. I almost said De Palma, but Ana de Armas. She's most known for being apparently the AI in Blade Runner 2049. I didn't see it, so I wouldn't know. She was in that Keanu Reeves, like, weird hostage movie, Knock Knock. And apparently she's also playing Marilyn Monroe, which is one of the things that I wanted to mention. One, she does a really good job. And two, this girl is fine as hell. Yeah, as you can see. I can see her playing Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, she does a really good job in the film. Chris Evans does a good job. Daniel Craig does a good job, even with the, as Chris Evans' character says a couple of times in the movie, KFC ass accent. Like, it's this southern drawl. Everybody in the film was quite pleasant. Overall, I really applaud the acting in this film. Piggybacking off of the acting, the dynamic between the family is really entertaining because they kind of play different stereotypes of what you would think or what we've seen in different media of like a famous family. You have the snotty-nosed brat, who's basically what Chris Evans plays. Chris Evans is the son of Jamie Lee Curtis and Don Johnson's characters. So Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter of Christopher Plummer's character, who's this mystery novelist, and he's amassed this massive fortune. So Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter, is one of the heirs to this whole fortune. So her and her husband, who's played by Don Johnson, had a kid. That's who Christopher Evans is, right? Daniel Craig plays a private investigator who's brought in on the case to kind of figure out what happened to Christopher Plummer's character. Because the basis of the story is Christopher Plummer, again, plays a mystery novelist, fiction novelist, as you could say, and he winds up dead. The housekeeper finds him. Family, gets together for like the will reading and funeral, all this other stuff. But he's there because he was hired to actually figure out what's going on with his death. Because it looks like, and it's presented as a suicide, but he has different opinions about that. But the dynamic between the family is entertaining as hell. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent. It's really entertaining because they're all their own specific characters, and we've seen these characters before in different movies and TV shows, right? So we've seen characters that are in a rich family. You have the brat, you have that one weird family member that's like a hippie. But even now you have characters that have kids, younger kids, like Jacob. His name isn't Jacob. It's Jaden Lieberher from It. He's in the film, and apparently several times in the film he gets called like an alt-right troll. And then his cousin, who's played by Catherine Langford from 13 Reasons Why, he calls her like a SJW snowflake. So it's kind of funny that they take some political shots, but they're not it's not super leaning one particular way. You kind of hear two different sides and everything like that. So I thought that was entertaining. But this is the type of dynamic that the family has. The weird hippie cousin that married into the family. You know, Jamie Lee Curtis is kind of like the de facto matriarch of the family as well. So just the dynamic in general is really, really entertaining. Another thing that I liked about the film is that it's funny in parts. It was, and this is something that I'll talk about later on as well, but it's definitely entertaining, and I had a few chuckles just because of the situations and the things that are said. Like the scene from the trailer of Chris Evans telling everybody to eat shit. That was just as funny in the movie as it was in the trailer. So this movie does have some humor to it, but overall it is, you know, a typical murder mystery film as well. So it's not like it's run down with just a bunch of jokes left and right or a bunch of humor left and right either. The actual murder mystery, the actual plot and the premise of the film, the mystery that the movie is built around, is actually interesting as well, especially when it gets broken down. And I mean, I guess most murder mystery films turn out that way, most good ones at least. But this one was actually pretty interesting, and I'll go into a bit why later as well. There's also a really cool Chekhov's gun, or knife, I guess I should say. That's a terrible joke, but if you've seen the movie, you get it, especially if you know what Chekhov's gun is. But there's a really cool Chekhov's gun moment that I called right when it was happening. So I like the fact that they actually had a callback to that as well. Like I stated before, Daniel Craig's country ass accent, like super, super South accent. A couple of the jokes that Chris Evans' character makes, he references KFC a couple of times, and he also calls him Foghorn Leghorn. That's how heavy his country accent is. Mind you, Daniel Craig is James Bond. He's British as fuck, right? But he has a super deep South country accent, and I think he pulls it off. I'm not from the South, but when it comes to having a private investigator who's very, very well known, and his name is even Benoit Blanc, very French sounding, Benoit Blanc, and he has a country ass act. It was just entertaining overall. This is a surprising thing that I liked about the film, but it gave me Clue vibes, and that's not a bad thing, right? Clue is very well known as being not a great movie. Some people even call it a terrible movie. I reviewed the film on the channel. I think it's entertaining as hell. It's not really all that good, but it's entertaining as hell. This gave me Clue vibes, and again, I'll come back to that later as well. Now, let's move on to some of the things that I didn't like. The plot was slow. This film, I think, is just a little bit over 2 hours, and you could tell. I don't want to completely blame it on pacing, but something in the film, I kind of found myself adjusting myself in my seat quite a few times, and there were certain scenes or moments that went on way longer than they should have. But overall, I think it makes sense, especially for a murder mystery. You can't do a mystery film and have it be super, super fast paced, especially if it's a typical mystery film, right? Like, there are tropes and there are ways that mystery films play out, and that's how we recognize that it's a mystery film. I've never heard of a mystery film, you know, playing out really, really fast paced, especially if you're dropping hints and you're doubling back and going over certain situations again. If you're doing it too fast, it loses focus and it becomes hard to actually follow. You know, with that being said, there was something about the film where it was just a little too slow for me. But again, that's not like a super big knock against the film, because I understand you have to do your due diligence with mystery films. You have to, when you're crafting them, you have to make sure that you explain everything that you're going to pay off and that you do everything properly. So I get it. It's just a little slow to me, that's all. Speaking of the murder mystery portion of the film, I think it was a little predictable. Very, very early on, I've already given my spoiler warning, but very early on, Anna's character, Marta, She's from Uruguay. Her mom is an illegal. It turns out her mom is in the country illegally or came to the country illegally. That's not really, that becomes a plot point later on in the film when it comes to like her being blackmailed. But early on in the film, when it starts, the housekeeper finds Christopher Plummer dead. We get a shot of her. We find out who she is. She was his nurse. And then immediately I was like, she did it. She probably did it. Turns out that's both true and false. By way of some type of switcheroo shenanigans, she thought that she accidentally killed him, and they concocted this plan where he basically killed himself and before he actually died. So it'll look like a suicide. Ideally, they wouldn't really pay all that much attention to the toxicology report, which is false anyway. That's one of the things that they look at, especially because he was on medication. Her being involved, I called very early on, and then later on when it turns out that when Chris Evans' character starts helping her, I said, there's something fishy about that. He probably had he's probably the one blackmailing her some type of way or something like that. Turns out I was partially right as well. So running down the premise of the movie really, really quickly, Christopher Plummer, again, like I explained before, fiction novelist, millionaire, right? He's super, super rich. He has a nurse who's Marta. Marta is with him one night, the night of his 85th birthday. She goes upstairs with him. You know, they call it a night. She's giving him his medicine, which is, I forget the name of the drug, but to help him sleep, she gives him like 3 milligrams of morphine. She thinks she pushes 100 milligrams of morphine. Like she somehow switched the vials up. So she thinks that he has 10 minutes to live.
Many hours later.
So that turns into another like type of side plot, because then once Marta tells the truth to him, and he's trying to blackmail her anyway, he's like, look, I'll help you, but I want my cut of the money.
One eternity later.
Basically, it's a whole bunch of crazy shit, right? Marta being involved, I called early on in the film. And then once it was revealed that once Chris Evans kind of started acting different toward her, because he's very much shown to be an asshole. He makes he makes the housekeeper call him by his first name, which is Hugh. Everybody else calls him Ransom. It's his middle name. That's a weird ass middle name. I don't understand, but that's neither here nor there. He makes the housekeeper call him Hugh. So once he's very much shown to be an asshole. So once he starts helping Marta, I'm like, he has an agenda. He's probably the one actually blackmailing her some type of way. And it turns out that I was right. So the actual mystery is somewhat predictable, but it's about the journey getting there, right? I think overall it was really, really entertaining, especially because they added some interesting quirks. Like Marta has this regurgitative reaction to lying. She literally can't lie because she's going to throw up. And there's a moment where, this is another reason why I thought Chris Evans had something to do with it, because he takes her to a diner. Once the wheel is red and she knows that she has this fortune, the family turns on her real quick after, 20 minutes ago saying, hey, we want to kind of help you out financially with your family. You've been so good to our dad, this and that. Once they find out she has everything, they're like, oh, you little bitch this and you little bitch that. So they're like swarming her, and he pulls up, tells her to get in his Beamer. They drive off to a diner. He fills her beans and hot dogs, has the waitress get him an empty bowl early on, and he says, look, I know that you just ate a plate full of beans and hot dogs, and I know from playing whatever game that they played before, I know that you cannot lie or you'll puke. He puts the bowl in front of her and he says, tell me what fucking happened to my granddad. Checkmate, right? But she was a step ahead anyway, because she's such a good person. And again, going back to the acting, Ana de Armas does a really good job in that role of playing such a good person and caretaker for this man. But again, I think the murder mystery just a little bit predictable. That doesn't detract from it being an entertaining film, but that's just something I wanted to note. Another thing that I didn't like, going back to the movie being funny in parts. The reason why I phrased it that way is because I think the marketing that I saw for the film portrayed this movie to be more funny or quirky than it actually is. Especially with Chris Evans' eat shit scene and the music and everything. It just came off a little quirky, a little more quirky or weird, and not like your typical super serious mystery film, right? This isn't a super serious mystery film, but at the same time, it's definitely not as funny or quirky as that first trailer. I'm guessing the subsequent trailers probably portrayed it like this as well. But it's definitely not as weird or quirky as you would be led to believe. It is simply because of the different characters of the family. It's definitely entertaining and kind of funny to see it in that particular way. But it's not. I was thinking going into this film that it's a murder mystery and it's, mostly a comedy while still being a pretty good murder mystery film. But it's a pretty good murder mystery film that has some sprinkles of comedy, but it's basically a procedural film before anything else, because we kind of follow Marta and then you have Benoit kind of retracing the steps and finding shit out. So those are the things that I didn't really like about the film, but it doesn't take away from the film at all. I think overall, this is a really enjoyable film and it does deserve to be seen. Again, you might be able to pull out, if you've already seen it, great. If you're watching this before you've seen it, I basically just ruined the movie for you, but it deserves to be seen fresh without knowing anything. And I think I saw something on Twitter about Chris Evans being a psychopath and in reference to this film, but I didn't think anything of it during the movie. So, maybe the movie was subconsciously spoiled for me, who knows? But just the way that it played out, it's kind of interesting. And I got super long-winded about this. I thought taking my notes would kind of help out with that, but clearly it didn't. Moving on to some actual surprising tidbits or fun facts about the film. Joseph Gordon-Levitt appears voice only in this film as one of the detectives, I guess, on the phone or off screen in the background, which is funny because when I was looking up movie posters to use and looking through the cast, specifically so I can get their names right and know where they're from, this and that. That's how I know about Anna de Armas, the girl from 13 Reasons Why. I just forgot her name that quickly. But I noticed him at the end of the casting list. And I was like, wait, he was in this film? I don't remember seeing him, and that's because you don't see him. He's the voice of one of the detectives. Speaking of this movie giving me Clue vibes, Lakeith Stanfield's detective references Clue early on in the film, which was really, really funny to me because he says when he's talking to Benoit about everything and about the whole case and things like that, how there is kind of something weird about it, but he says, hey, the guy literally lives in the house from Clue. So I thought that was kind of cool because I was getting Clue vibes from the film and they kind of winked about it as well. So the girl from 13 Reasons Why, Catherine Langford, now I've never watched 13 Reasons Why. She does kind of look familiar from something else, but I can't really put my name on it. But apparently, and this isn't what she kind of looks familiar from, by the way, but apparently she's the older Morgan Stark that was in that deleted Avengers Endgame scene where Tony talks to Morgan in like the soul world or whatever like that. So I thought that was really interesting. The most surprising thing I would say about the film, though, is that the murder mystery is solved, or revealed at least, super early in the film. If this movie, like I said, is about a little over 2 hours long, maybe just under 2 hours, the murder mystery is revealed, like the machinations of it, what happened, how he died and things like that. That's revealed probably 45 minutes into the film. Like we figure out really, really early what happened. And then after it's revealed, the movie basically comes down to, it starts as a, hey, this guy was killed, is ruled a suicide. Somebody hired this private investigator to figure out what really happened to him. So obviously somebody thinks that he was murdered. So it turns into him kind of snooping around, interviewing the family members, this and that. And I wouldn't even say 45 minutes into the film. It probably happens earlier than that, because he interviews Toni Collette's character, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Don Johnson's character, I think somebody, Michael Shannon's character. So that's 4 characters that he interviews. I think he even interviews Catherine Langford's character, but he saves Marta for last because he's heard about he believes that she's a good person, and he's heard about the puking reaction to lying, right? He even asks her a question and she lies about it and throws up basically immediately, or at least, tries to hold it down but can't. But yeah, it's revealed fairly early. It's revealed right at that point, before he starts asking her questions, because then it goes, and the editing is one of the other things with the film that I liked as well, because when it double backs and goes over particular scenes of what happened, it shows when he starts questioning her, he's flipping this coin, mid-flip, she runs down the entire thing of what happened. Thinking that she gave him the wrong medication, him saying, hey, I don't want this to come back on you. This is what we're going to do. You're going to impersonate me. You're going to do this. You're going to tell the cops this. And she's like, well, I can't lie. I'll literally throw up. He was like, don't lie. Tell them fragments of the truth in this order. She does that. She still goes and throws up a little bit later, but I don't think it was because of the fact that she was lying. I think it was more so that she was kind of dancing around the truth and just everything that was happening. Yeah, we find out relatively early, and then it turns into a cat and mouse game, because then Marta knows that Blanc is on to her, and she's trying to avoid being caught. And at that point, it's just a ticking clock to, okay, something's got to give. He's going to find out, because he's like this well-renowned private investigator. There was a Time magazine article on him in the movie or some shit like that Toni Collette and Jamie Lee Curtis both read about him. I mean, there's a ticking clock to when the inevitable is going to happen, and if she's actually going to be able to get away with it. What's up, guys? Really quickly, was having some problems with my memory card. Apparently it got full during the recording, so the ending of the video cut off. But continuing from what I was saying, basically her trying to see if she was going to get away with it. And she does, but then she doesn't, because, in the end, Chris Evans' character rolls on her the first chance he gets after he's stopped and arrested, when they go on this like weird chase, because the medical examiner's building is like blown up or burned down with the toxicology evidence, which would have exonerated Marta and everything like that. So he's arrested, he rolls on her, and then she confesses to Benoit. She talks him into letting her tell the family what happened. He's reading the toxicology report. He says, hey, this was a suicide, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when he starts running down the process of what happened. Like, oh, this is what Ransom did, blah, 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 this and that. He even brings them in and, kind of runs everything by him. And so we figure out that the jig is up, that Ransom was behind it all, this and that, because he was so upset at the fact that his grandfather was leaving everything to Marta. So, yeah. Other than that, going back to the Chekhov's gun moment, Christopher Plummer's character was talking to Marta earlier in the film before she gave him the medicine, and he was having a monologue about something. He was saying, I guess referring to his age, not realizing that, when you could tell the difference between a stage knife and a real one. And he had a real knife in his office, in his bedroom, that he, kept near the desk, or there's a little table where they used to play this game at. And he stuck it into the table. Chris Evans walks up to Marta, grabs this knife. There's like a Game of Thrones kind of knife setup, and you can position a chair in front of it where it's behind you. He grabs the knife off of it, lunges at her. It's done in slow motion. Everybody lunges to try to stop him. He stabs her, but it's a prop knife that I can't think of the word right now, but when you press down, it goes inside the handle. It's a plastic knife, but it goes inside the handle. It depresses into the handle when you actually press down. And he's like, oh, shit. Okay. And then they pull him off of her. So I think that was a really cool Chekhov's gun moment as well. Because he referenced it in the speech, and then not knowing that I guess that entire kind of mural, or I don't want to call it a mural, but the entire display, diorama, whatever you want to call it, is probably made up of fake knives, and nobody can tell. They think they're all real knives. So yeah. And one of the other things about Marta's throw up reaction to lying, she lied about the housekeeper being dead. She said that she was alive in order to get Ransom to admit to killing her on record, which they were recording on that. One of the detectives was recording, the state trooper was recording on his phone or something like that. It bothered me that all the other times we're shown her throwing up in reaction to lying, they happen basically instantly. And it's like a little bubble in her stomach, and then she yaks. But this time she's on the phone, she gets a call from a doctor, and immediately I'm like, oh, that the housekeeper is dead. And she talks to him, and then she says, oh, so I forget Fran. Fran is the housekeeper's name. Fran is alive. So you didn't kill her. And so then Chris Evans has this little moment, and then Marta walks up to him and then throws up in his face. And it's like, she did a really good job of holding that down. So the one moment where she would have needed to hold it down, she was able to. But we were shown that she couldn't all the previous times in the film. It's not anything big, it's just a small little nitpick that I thought was interesting and that I noticed in the movie. But other than that, yeah, this is a movie that deserves to be seen. Again, I say go ahead and check it out, like I was just saying before in the footage. And yeah, guys, I'm back. I might even make the thumbnail of this. I took a picture with my actual butterfly knife, but I think that I might make the thumbnail the newspaper headline when Michael Jordan came out of retirement. But yeah, you can expect more videos from me now. I'm probably going to go see Jumanji: The Next Level later on today, technically, since it's technically Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year's, happy holidays, all that good stuff. I appreciate all of the support, whether it's 1, 5, 10, or 100 views. And I will catch up with you guys later.